Welcome to the Living Life Well show, the intersection of God's Word, today's science, and healthy living with common sense application, all based on the truth of the Word of God. I'm your host, Dr. John Skelton. Now let's get straight to the truth. All right, welcome back to the Living Life Well show. Happy to come to you guys today and speak about something that I've been seeing more and more in my practice, and this idea of generational health, this idea of how to get my kids to be healthy and what is going to be best for them. More and more, I'm seeing even young kids coming into the practice with different health issues, as well as, young adolescents to high school age kids. And a lot of college age kids or young adults as well. So more and more, I'm seeing this emphasis that we are really putting on as individual families and individual groups as to how I can best help myself throughout life, how I can best help my kids as they go along in this life. And so I wanted to dedicate this podcast to that concept and what things can we do at each stage in life to really help facilitate that healthy living, those best choices that can be made. How can we introduce things that will be sustainable, be long-term benefits to them? Because let's face it, we live in a world that is very addicted and very difficult to get away from the mainstream, from the norm, if you will. I wanted to talk about that. But first, I wanted to say if you're enjoying this podcast, if you've enjoyed any of these episodes that you've listened to, I'd really appreciate it if you gave us a thumbs up or shared the episode, or even give us some feedback. Either you can email us at admin@livelifewellclinic.com, or if you wanted to hit us up on our social media, that would be great as well. We'd appreciate any feedback you can. So back to the topic at hand. So generational health. So how do we start that? Well, first of all, it has to start with you, right? So it has to start with you modeling the behaviors that you want to see in your kids. And this can happen, thankfully, at any stage in life. At any stage in life, you can take responsibility for your own health, your own actions, and then over time, those are going to translate into health and modeling for your kids. Now, different stages, it's easier to get the kids to comply than at other stages. So the earlier on in their life you're able to intervene, obviously the more successful you're going to be. However, that does not mean that you are not going to be successful if you already have adult kids, college age kids, late high school age kids. So you can implement these changes at any time in life and they'll be successful. So let's talk about even preconception, okay? So you guys are talking about wanting to start a family, or you've already started a family but are talking about a subsequent pregnancy. What can you do to really help facilitate to start that child off on the right foot? Well, things that you can do just typically in the home is, number one, eliminate all processed foods, okay? Eliminate the things that come in boxes and in cans and those things as much as possible. If you can do that, you will be a leg up on most everybody else when you're talking about physical health, okay? So if you can eliminate that, you will really facilitate your own health and the health of your future children. That would be number one. Number two would be for you to evaluate whether or not there are any ongoing infections in the gut. Primarily, this is where we see issues. And what I see a lot of times, especially with women, is not necessarily with the first pregnancy, unless it's at more of an advanced age, but with subsequent pregnancies, especially pregnancies that occur right in a row, you see a tendency of adrenal stress that then can translate into hormonal issues. I see this quite often in clients that have pre-existing gut issues or have chronic inflammatory conditions or infections like mono and those things. So having yourself screened and or treated and then following, that general rule of eliminating the processed foods as much as possible, it is going to be beneficial to you and your ability to have a good flora that you pass on to your child. And hopefully, when we're talking about infants and those things, you're able to breastfeed as well. We want to have a good, healthy vaginal and gut flora because as the child is passing through, they inherit their flora from their mother. And so it's really important for women to have very good, healthy gut flora. And so pre-pregnancy, when you're in the stages of planning, being able to work on that, make sure you're getting plenty of fermented foods. Those are going to be things that will help to generate good gut flora, eliminate possible infections. But then, of course, if you want to take it a step further, do that testing, do that GI map, check for H. pylori, check for mono, see if you have reactivated mono or if you've ever had mono, because most people I encounter don't know that they've ever had mono. And if you don't know that you've ever had mono, you don't even really think of it as a possibility for what could be coming down the pipe once your body is under that stress of going through the pregnancy, the delivery, and now the sleepless nights that you're having that re-aggravate those chronic infections and those things like long COVID. So taking care of your health, number one, is going to help you take care of that young baby. Secondarily, now they have come out of the womb, you're starting to introduce a solid food. So what are the things that we want to do? Well, we want to introduce whole foods as much as possible. Some of the baby foods can be very processed. So we want to make sure that when we're looking at those baby foods, if we're buying off the shelf, we're looking and making sure there are no added sweeteners, no natural flavors, and no added sugars of any kind, because that will help to destroy that gut flora that you've worked so hard to get right for your child. So making sure that we are eating those whole foods, making sure that we aren't doing the little crisps and little processed cookies and those things that we can typically buy off store shelves for our kids to kind of help soothe them a little. And then you really don't want to introduce juice. Juice typically is going to be tons of artificial sweeteners and or added sugars, added colors, those things. So we want to avoid adding those as much as possible. And then even when they're infants and young preschool age kids, eliminating screen time as much as possible. That screen time messes with the development of their brain, which over time can cause stress. And so minimizing that time is going to be important because overall, when we see added stress, we also see changes in that gut flora. So eliminating those things are going to be important. Now we are into the school age kids. We're really talking kind of more elementary age. And here, what you want to do is you really want to make sure that you are in control of their meals, not the school, not the drive-through line. You want to make sure that you are really facilitating that for them. So for those things, the two big things that you want to look at is no added sugars. And secondarily, the next most important thing is going to be no store-bought breads, okay? The store-bought breads are going to be equivalent to sugars. You've got to be really careful. Now, there are some things that you can get. You could try Ezekiel bread and those things. You can do some different tortillas like the siete brand of tortillas that are going to be more in the freezer section. Those will be a little bit better. But otherwise, if you're doing grains, make sure that it has been made with fresh milled flour that hasn't been stored. If it does have to be stored, make sure that you are using truly whole grain flour that has not been enriched, so to speak. You are going to find these more at your health food stores, not typically straight off the rack in your general grocery store. But also, there are usually some local places that you can buy bread from that have been fully, fresh milled bread, whole grain mills that haven't been processed. And so, if you can seek that out, that would be good as well. Because the issue is the lunches that are served in schools and now breakfast. Many kids, at least in our area of the country, definitely public school, they have access to not only breakfast, but also lunch at school. So now the school has taken charge of 2 of the 3 meals at least per day that your kids are typically going to have. So you need to take back that charge and make sure that you are minimizing that exposure to excess sugars and those things. Sugars that you do want to allow them to have a good taste for is full fruits. Full fruits are going to be great. So berries, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, those things. Having them have apples, having them have oranges, grapes are going to be okay to a degree as well. And so wanting those full fruits and not just the juices. Problem with even fresh squeezed, if you're doing a lot of it, is you're missing out on that fiber component, which again is going to be so important for their guts and their gut health. Gut health is really the gateway to overall physical health. So that's why we're focusing so much on it. Now, so that's kind of how to best handle it for those elementary age. And I'll be quite honest with you, it is easier when they're in elementary and younger grades because you can really control it. Now, once you're in high school age, a little bit different, a little bit harder to navigate just because so much of the time they are wanting to hang out with friends, go do things with friends. It's been my experience with now about to be graduating college and now an upper high school kid that you have a lot less control over their meals. You still, depending upon the situation, may have 1 to 2 meals a day that are at school. And so again, leaning into that is going to be important. But at this age, really what I think is most important is having 2 things. 1, teaching them about health. And 2 is going to be eliminating those possibilities for processed things in the home. Now, at this age, what I find is if you haven't done that up to this point, one of the big things that you can do, and I should have said this earlier, is really water. Water is going to be huge. Even if they don't do anything else, even if they are going to eat out with friends and those things, having them consume water as opposed to a diet beverage, a Powerade, a sweet tea, if you will, any kind of Coke, that is going to be big. Not only does it pay benefits for the overall gut health when we think of gut health as small and large intestine and stomach, but also for their oral health as well. Eliminating those sweet, sugary drinks is going to be big. And so for a lot of kids are also doing a lot of milk. And so using more of a milk that is a whole milk or at least 2% milk as opposed to skim milk actually is going to be a little bit better because there's less sugar involved. And maintaining really good health starts with eliminating those sugary drinks as much as possible because sugary drinks really contribute to poor gut health and inflammatory conditions and poor health overall. So that is going to be really important. And the good news is that kids nowadays in this junior to high school age, they're actually a lot more open to that. Most of them are open to possibly some dietary changes to be healthy. They see health as a thing to be desired, and they see it all the time on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or whatever, YouTube, whatever medium it is that they are looking at. They're seeing people that are very into health. So use that to your advantage. Don't use it as, hey, we're going to do, this protein shake, or we're going to do this diet per se, but just make some small changes for them if they are resistant to that by just having only water with meals at home. Hopefully, over time, that will start translating to meals. If it doesn't, then that's fine. At least you're doing it at home. You've eliminated those sugary drinks at home, and that is going to pay huge benefits. So that kind of takes junior high and high school. College, it's when you do go see your child at college, if they aren't living with you, is really helping them, buying them those healthy things when they do go to college, encouraging them, to get plenty of sleep and rest. And that really is important with the junior high and high school age group too, really all along, is encouraging that sleep and really controlling those meal times so that you're not eating hours before bed, because that does, regardless of what they're eating, that will allow rest to occur and healing to occur to the gut. College students are notorious for having odd hours, for staying up late, sleeping in late, all those things, and also being very busy, whether it be with just studies or extracurricular activities or work or all of that combined. So really getting your college student to understand the sleep that is needed and involved. And then finally, the next point is, as parents, get the grandparents on board. Okay. Grandparents love to reward kids, and most grandparents, their reward system is typically based on some sort of a treat, usually some sort of a sweet treat, food, those types of things. So be very intentional with what your expectations are with those that do have care over your children outside of your purview. And so really having that conversation with those grandparents are going to be important, and having that conversation prior to kids coming along is easier than it is after they're here. But once they're here, asking them to change their reward system to a verbal praise reward or some type of experiential reward. Be it where the grandparents, when they're younger, just spending time playing games with them, going to a specific activity with them as they potentially get older and in junior high school age group, movie, something like that. But have it be experiential and have it be based upon who they are, rewarding that integrity aspect and not what they have done. And so we really want to look at that health from all stages of life. And there are ways that you can intervene at any stage. Now, look, if your kids are already, college age, that they've kind of already left the nest and they're on their own completely at this point, and they're not wanting to listen to you, guess what? You have influence still. So when they do come to visit, you can, not have those things around that typically are going to be bad, but they really love, those processed things and those really sweet things that are there. But then also the big aspect is you can flip the script with your grandkids. You can practice this. You can introduce these healthy ideas and healthy lifestyle. But honestly, it all starts with you. And so if you want to have healthy kids and healthy grandkids, you've got to be willing to flip that switch for yourself. I hope this has been beneficial. Hope that you've found this helpful. And again, we would love any reviews and or shares that you could give us. Thanks and God bless. That's it for this episode of the Living Life Well show. If you like what you've heard and want to learn more, or want to know how to put this into practice for yourself, go to livelifewellclinic.com. Until next time, this is Dr. John Skelton saying go out and live the truth so you can live life well. The preceding is for entertainment and educational purposes only. It is not meant to be used to prevent, diagnose, treat, or cure any condition. The information contained in this show does not substitute the need for a qualified medical professional, nor is it meant to provide medical advice or services. If you feel information presented in this show may apply to you, we recommend you seek out the help of a qualified medical professional who can evaluate and treat your specific concerns.